3 boards of directors, and I should clarify that he never once actually used the R word with us to describe his situation. Despite direct inquiries on the matter, Dad insisted he was interregnum, which I came to learn meant between kingdoms. He didn't know where his next kingdom was going to come from, but he was certain there was going to be one. It was also during that year and a half following the sale of the company and his subsequent departure from Torstar that Dad sat down to write this book. He had spoken of doing so for a long time. He had taken trips to Germany and Kitchener-Waterloo years before to do research on the family roots, but although he truly appeared to want to write this book, he couldn't quite seem to bring himself to do it. I think perhaps he was waiting to see if there was another chapter for the Star still to come. After the Torstar sale, that possibility ended, and this book became Dad's primary focus. He attacked it as he would any other task in front of him, with a vengeance. He delighted in being well ahead of every single deadline set by his publisher. Once a newspaper man? This book, however, isn't just about Dad, but also about his dad, Beland Honderich, the man I knew as Grandpa B, but others knew by a few less flattering nicknames. Bringing to light Grandpa's story and his rise to the top at the Star was, I believe, one of Dad's motivating factors in putting pen to paper. He is very honest in these pages about his relationship with his father. It was fascinating for me to read about it, but it also made me reflect on my own relationship and experience with my father. And I could not help but note that while Dad had clearly worked through his own father-son experience, at least as he describes it here, he had yet to recognize some of the parallels of his own experience of being a father to me and my sister Emily. So, you may be wondering, just how do I fit in? Well, I am John's son, and the third Honderich in 3 consecutive generations to work at the Star. I did not contribute to the 49 consecutive years where either my father or grandfather was in charge, but I had a front row seat like few others, especially during the last 2 decades, and I feel very much a part of the journey. In fact, due to the Star's unique share structure, I had an even more in-depth view through the Torstar Voting Trust, which controlled the company. Not only did I hear many stories at the dinner table, I actually joined our family board and trust in my early 20s. From that point on, alongside the rest of my family, I would receive a formal Torstar update, initially from Grandpa, and then soon after from Dad. In the last few years, it became a particular highlight when Dad had started turning to me to aid in the formal Torstar update as the boots-on-the-ground employee who could speak to the digital space a little more eloquently than my technologically challenged father. Although my father wore many hats in the end, among them Honderich family representative on the Voting Trust, chair of the Voting Trust, and chair of Torstar, what many readers may not know is that these positions were ultimately conditional on the support of his family. Like all other Voting Trust families, we elected a representative for both the Voting Trust and the Torstar board. In theory, that representation was up for review and approval every year at our family board meeting. Given Dad's role in the company, it was most often a no-brainer that our family would reappoint him, but it's an element of Dad's story that is not fully spelled out here. Not only was he running a newsroom or a company or a board, he was also always having to report back to his family and keep us all on side, even during the difficult years in the late stages of his tenure, when the family was taking large personal financial hits due to the industry's struggles. It's one reason why I think the entire Honderich family is owed some credit in whatever due one might prescribe to the Star and its journalism. This is especially true for Dad's 2 siblings, Mary and David, who never worked for the paper, but who bought into its underlying principles and mission, remaining steadfast in support of Dad and his efforts throughout difficult times. As someone said to me recently, Dad wasn't a bean counter. Rather, he was a newspaper man. Someone who believed deeply in the value of journalism and what it means for a healthy democracy and society, and we were behind him. I followed a winding road, as my father did, to end up working at the Star. I always credit him, as he did his father, for putting no significant pressure on me to join the company. The choice was